Hi there, good evening, and welcome to the latest edition of Dreamers and Unicorns show. And so today we have really not just a dreamer, not just a unicorn, but one of the market shapers. And I say it, in the sense that we have with us Manoj Kohli, who is, of course, now the country head of SoftBank. And it is, not just this element, but I'm going to sort of go back to his career over more than 4 decades. And those 4 decades have been spent across many different industries and sort of really moved across sectors in a fairly strategic way. If you look at it, prior to this, he's worked with, telecom, where, his work with Airtel. He was really the person responsible for its gigantic growth and a massive sort of expansion. So that's really going to be the focus. But before that, also, Manoj has got an extremely super impressive resume. So I'm going to sort of say that, Manoj, I think only you can do justice to your resume. Just tell us for the benefit of our listeners, what are the sectors you worked in and, some of the things, and then we'll take it on from there. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's such a delight to have you.
Abhijit, thanks a lot. I'm grateful for your invitation. And before I come to myself, let me compliment you for your book. Your book is Our Dreamers and Unicorns is very insightful, and I think it should be read by all the investors as well as all the entrepreneurs. How they go through ups and downs, and how is the journey like, and how you can succeed. So thanks for writing that book because not many people have done that.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you so much.
no, thanks. I think it's all your hard work. So I'm about to complete my 42 years of my industrial experience. Mm, about 16 years were in manufacturing at various parts of India and the world, and then 20 years in telecom, and about last 6 years in SoftBank. And now I'm supporting more than 20 portfolio companies, all digital startups, uh, which are growing very well and are creating disruptions in many industries and providing great products and services, affordable products and services, and high quality products to customers in India and in many other countries of the world.
Um, Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I mean, you sort of toned it down much more than what I would have wanted, but anyway, that's great. We'll get a chance to talk about some of those things as well. So, just in terms of for the benefit of the viewers and listeners, wherever you are joining us from, we are going to be taking questions focused pretty much on leadership, talent, and culture, which are some of the pieces which we are going to focus on today. But just from the point of view of the kind of companies where SoftBank has invested, to just name a few, and Ola, Oyo, Paytm, Lenskart, Grofers, Snapdeal, WeWork, Delhivery, InMobi, Unacademy, Uber. My God, that's a really, the who's who of the startup world and the who's who of the unicorns. Um, the question I have for you is really going to focus around, why doesn't every startup scale? What goes wrong?
You know, the great thing about any business, whether it's a startup or even an established business, is not the idea, but the execution of the idea. And I believe very firmly that if the execution is not proper, is not systematic and orderly, is not done with full passion and with an integrated approach, it is very difficult for a business to scale up. So I believe that's the execution gap, and that's why where I'm supporting many of these entrepreneurs, many of these founders to scale up, because scale up from 1x to 2x is not the same as 1x to 5x or 10x or 20x. The complexity of scale up grows very fast, and a lot of people maybe underestimate that complexity. And that's where I think one has to be more careful. For example, in Airtel, when we scaled up from 1 crore to 10 crore, from 0 million customers. All aspects. Hello, 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 hello. Abhijit, can you hear me? Abhijit, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I'm sorry, there
Abhijit,
was a
can you hear
temporary.
me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you. Please go ahead. I'm so sorry I missed your
So,
answer. I'm going to request you to repeat for me.
no, I was just giving example of Airtel, which was also a startup, starting from zero, ground zero, going up to 400 million customers in 20 countries. The complexity went up and up, but luckily our team, Airtel team, was star team, and team looked at every aspect and was so proactive about scaling up, whether it is brand, whether it is distribution, whether it is regulations, whether it is network planning, marketing, financial management, uh, every aspect of it, compliances, because you can't let anything go. Everything is important. At the end of the day, you may be a great company, but if you slip on even one of these 7 or 8 things, it will pull you down.
So, Manoj, the question would be twofold. One is that, could one argue that Airtel was in such a business which would have grown any which way because there was such a massive demand? So, there was a huge product market fit. So, it would have grown. Or would you say that um, when there were many other companies, nobody grew like Airtel? And it was leadership, talent, and culture, which sort of, I always tend to look at it with that frame. What would you say?
I firmly believe in this LTC formula. I'm firmly big believer of LTC formula, because in telecom, as an example, 20 to 30 companies started, and
Sure.
how many have sustained? Today we have 3 companies in telecom, and on the way many more companies joined. Maybe total of, if you add up from 94 to now, maybe more than 50 companies joined the race,
Wow.
and out of 50 only 3 are left. Now there has to be something good about these 3 companies. How did they sustain? Why did they sustain? That is the real question, and that answer lies in LTC. It's leadership, it's good talent, and it's great culture. And leadership which is not only proactive, leadership which is not only engaging with all the stakeholders so well, but leadership which gives a sound long-term strategic direction.
Mm, mm.
And that is very critical, because businesses need sound long-term, high quality strategic direction, and every employee, every stakeholder looks for it. And if leadership doesn't provide that, or is not able to provide it, definitely businesses suffer. So there is a
And
difference. I mean, a market may be easy. Uh, Market growth may be easy because the market is there. India is 1.3 billion people. So obviously you can say market is there for everything. But why are some companies able to outpace significantly many other companies which are smaller, which are good companies, nothing wrong with them, but
sure.
they can't sustain? So sustainability test
Mm.
is only passed by companies which have LTC.
So leadership, talent, and culture become the three drivers. Is there a
Yes.
warning signal that you can sort of, when you read about a company, and it's not, I'm right now, I'm not talking about your portfolio of companies, but let's say if you look outside, if you just open the newspaper and you see something written about an organization, what would you look for as a warning sign that if I read something like this, it's a early warning signal that there is something which is going to go wrong, and it would find difficulty in scaling. What would that be?
No, sometimes uh, the growth momentum slows down. Sometimes there is a huge leadership attrition, team attrition.
Mm, mm,
Sometimes there is a major problem with government or regulations. Sometimes there is a major market share drop or decline due to a product failure. So there can be many problems. My the single consideration is that many of these problems can be inflicted upon any company in the world. It's not that one, but which company sustains? One, which company is proactive? It can predict the problem. Secondly, even if you can't predict the problem, can the company face it and resolve it fast and come back to rails, stand up again, start running? And that is what is the strength of management: strategic strength, execution strength, and most importantly, resilience.
mm. So, when somebody decides to join a startup, especially in the early days, there is no way of a person who's joining. They take a bet because the founders have a vision, and that vision could be inspiring. But are there things that somebody who's joining, say, fresh out of college or in the early stages of their career, what should they be looking to say that maybe this is not the right space for me? What
So
would you look for?
three, four key parameters of
Hmm,
success. Number one, of course, leadership. Is the leadership committed? Is the leadership passionate? Is the leadership ethical? Very
hmm,
important. Number two, funding capability. Is the funding happening at the right time? Is the funding ready for growth aspirations of the company? Number three, is is the business model profitable? That's also very important. If the model is not profitable, the probability of success is low. Number four, is the product and service has to be appreciated by the customers. If the product or service is not great, then you need to first make it great.
hmm,
Because if the product, yes, you can, if it is great, you obviously will have to do continuous improvement over the next 20 100 years. So I'm not talking of continuous improvement, that you can keep on improving, but the basic need of the customer has to be fulfilled, and the customer has to feel satisfied that this is right for me. Look at Uber, look at Ola, look at Lenskart, look at Policy Bazaar. Look at Zomato, look at Swiggy. I mean, I'm saying look at any company. They're satisfying a very important need of a customer, and they're satisfying it in a very consistent fashion. Because
hmm,
one is satisfaction, other is satisfaction consistently. Like you order today, then you order tomorrow, then you order every day for a month. The service has to be good. Otherwise, customer is will not tolerate weak service. So the systems, processes behind the service, and that is my last point. The systems and processes behind the product and service have to be so powerful, so robust, that they are able to give consistently good experience to the customer. So these are the 4 5 things. Now, obviously, when you join at the early stage, all these 4 5 things are not settled, they're not embedded, but they're on the way, and you can
hmm,
feel it. You can feel that
hmm.
this is happening. You can check. You can do a due diligence of the company and the brand. And if you are, I'll say 70 80% satisfied, you should take a chance.
Is it better that you take a chance in a startup at the early stage of your career, or should you go for a established organization which is, got everything set? What would you recommend? Um,
I will recommend a startup to all the youth of this country, uh, because of two reasons. Number one, that the hunger which this country's youth have can only be satisfied by a startup, not by an established company. And not that established companies are not good; they are fantastic established companies. But that hunger of new growth, hunger of outpacing the existing brand, hunger of really doing remarkably well at the global stage, can only come from a high quality startup. Number two, I believe that if you want to be entrepreneurial, and a lot of youngsters today, I mean, I feel it, guys who are 25, 27, the millennial generation is
Hmm.
entrepreneurial, not only hungry, but entrepreneurial. So that entrepreneurial experience can only come in startups, because startups empower you. They give you a lot of there's a lot of openness, flexibility. They empower you, and you feel that you are an entrepreneur of a part of the business, of a small portion of a business, which is fantastic. So
Manoj, there have
that's
been
my
a
vote.
number of perfect advice. I think I would agree that some of the things that you talked about, and we'll come back to this question in a minute. Just for the recap of those of us who have joined a little late, I think we are talking to Manoj about what is it that makes startups scale. And of course, if I were to just summarize a couple of things, he talked about leadership, talent, and culture become very important. But he's also talking about the fact that it's not just one department or something. It's all of them that have to come together. So therefore, I guess that's the talent part of it. You can't just have great talent in engineering and survive, or So even and every single day, the culture of consistently delivering high quality service. Have I summarized all the
No,
ideas?
absolutely. And on talent, one point which is very important, and even the talent should understand that. I want all the
Mhm.
youngsters should understand, because they are hugely talented. I mean, Indian youth is the most talented youth in the world. That I can bet. They're fantastic. They're hungry. They're talented. They're great engineers. They're great software builders. They're great app builders. But most important thing for a startup is a star team, not a
Mhm.
team of
Mhm.
stars. There's a
What's the
difference.
difference? What's the
The difference
difference?
is that you can get big stars in your team, but they may not coordinate or collaborate with each other. And it's very, very important. And I'll never forget that 1975 hockey match, which India won against Pakistan in World Cup. And I saw that. I was a youngster then. And what happened was we were leading till we were leading in the second half, and and then and of course Pakistan team is also good, and they were trying to attack. And but this three halves, Varinder Singh, Harmeet Singh, Ajit Pal Singh. Ajit Pal Singh was the captain.
Captain. Yes, I
They
remember.
kept Ajit Pal Singh and Varinder Singh and Harmeet Singh. They kept the ball with themselves for the last 15 minutes. They didn't let the ball go. The teamwork was fantastic. The ball stuck to their hockey stick, and nobody could take it away, despite the fact that the other team was also fantastic. So the point I'm making is teamwork makes the difference to win. Teamwork wins. You can have huge stars, but for stars to collaborate is most important. So I will
Mm.
actually go for not huge stars. I'll go for a talent which is maybe a bit less on ability, but higher on teamwork, higher on working together. That talent will deliver much more output.
It was very heartening for you to, for me to hear that you rate the Indian talent so high because, you worked in so many countries and so many continents. Just to keep it simple, you worked in China, Japan, Europe, and so various places, and Africa. You were responsible for the Airtel expansion into that country. So when you say that it has great talent, it's very very heartening. I mean, so thank you. I think. I wanted to just put a question that we have from some of the listeners. Is there the question I guess Sujata wants to know is, in an established company, is it that the company gets into a comfort zone, therefore it's an issue, or is it that hierarchy is the issue? What would you think is the issue at the early
Two
stage? What
serious
comes in the way?
problems. There are two serious problems in established companies, and not that the problem cannot be overcome. They can be overcome. One, that if it is a successful established company, then management gets a bit defensive about losing success. Whereas I think they should not let an outsider disrupt the business. They should disrupt the business themselves
themselves.
and come out bigger winners. For a temporary period of 1 year, 2 year, there could be a problem because you're disrupting the business. But later, they'll become bigger leaders than today. So
Sure.
self-disruption for established company is better than letting somebody else do it and destroy your business.
When
Now,
you look
this is
at
not easy. It needs a lot of courage. I know that, but still, it's a better path. So that is one. Secondary problem is that the hierarchy is 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 too strong sometimes, and the openness and flexibility is low, and there's a trained incapacity. Sorry, that's
hmm,
my word. Trained incapacity of
what is
working
that?
in a way or doing the things in a way which is right. This is the way to do it. This is the way to do business. This is the way to behave. This is the,
Hmm.
and all these startups, and again Airtel or wherever I worked. I mean, the openness, transparency, and flexibility of communications, of working, of empowerment is the most important cultural issue. And if you give that to the millennial culture, millennial talent, average age 27, they'll love it. They'll prosper. They'll become owners of the company. They will take the company to great success. So these are the two areas where all established companies should really think deeply. Because if they don't think deeply and take a courageous call on both these aspects, then they are giving an invitation to a new startup or multiple startups to come and take away their business, and they're good
Absolutely.
people. So rather
Um,
than somebody else doing it to you, it's better that
you
you
do
do
it
it.
to
You change
yourself.
the business model, you change things, you make the company far more youthful and far more culturally right for millennial talent, and then you will win.
And which is what you started with, that leadership, talent, and culture. The leadership allows that kind of a thing to prosper. The culture
Yeah.
sort of, encourages that, and talent, of course, has to make the most of that. We have a question from Karan who says that is providing discounts to capture market share a good strategy, or is it better to build a profitable business from the word go?
Technically, uh, discounts are not the way to build a great business. But tactically you can do it, but not it should not be. You can't discount your brand. I've seen many brands, and I don't want to name them. They have discounted themselves by giving too much discount. I have always been a proponent of keeping some premium, even if it is a small premium, because then premium gives a feeling to the customer that this is an aspirational brand. It is a better brand. I wear it on my chest with pride, you know. And if customer feels that, then he will be the biggest ambassador of the brand to somebody else. So discount can be used tactically here and there, but not consistently.
Manoj, I'm going to sort of uh, I'm going to ask you a question which is generic, and then I'm going to come back to your specific example because I really am very intrigued by this whole phenomenon that, and I've seen it in multiple scenarios. Somebody who is very good at, say, managing five people, doing a great job, and then you add a sixth person to the team, and the entire thing collapses. Um, or if you can say that somebody manages one department really well, is doing that. You add a second or a third, still does well. You add a fourth, and the guy collapses. How does one predict that this person's ability is only to manage 15 people or 17 people? No more. This one can manage three, no more. How do you assess that? Because you have had to do it multiple times in all these businesses. There's no other way you could have scaled it up so much. What do you look for as the signs that this person will scale up?
No, it's not a science. This is not a science. It's an art, and I think the managements have to test the waters continuously, test the people continuously, because I am confident people stretch beyond their abilities. And I have been surprised by many people because they stretch beyond my thought. If I'm thinking that he'll stretch to 100, actually he stretches to 130, 140. And he's able to do that. He or she is able to do that with a bit of stretch. But I never thought he or she will do it. But people do need two kinds of support. One, they need continuous feedback on where to improve, what not to do, and what to do consistently. I think that feedback is very important. A lot of times we don't give feedback, or we give feedback on a very structured way. Why? Why it's structured? I mean, my way has been that if there's an issue, good or bad, give feedback spontaneously. Because that is the right time to give feedback rather than waiting for 3 months or a quarterly or a half-yearly reviews. Those things are overstructured. I think we should keep it spontaneous. Second thing is that if we notice a weakness in a manager, and everyone has weaknesses, I have weaknesses, all of us have weaknesses, then that weakness needs to be plugged proactively. For example, I've had CEOs with me who are very bright, but they may be weak in one area. For example, somebody is weak in finance. So I'll always put a very strong CFO under that CEO, because I know that he can do a great job in marketing, great job in branding, great job in service, or etc. etc. But if he has a strong CFO, then he or she will really do much better, because then he doesn't have to be worried on that.
Right.
And I don't have to be worried on that. So I think these are the two things which management should do closely. But that management can do if you closely observe the person. If you observe the habits and behavior and strengths and weaknesses of the manager.
A sort of follow-up question to that is, sometimes, the people managers, they hesitate to really tell you how bad the thing is. They will say, there's a little bit of improvement needed, so you can, maybe you can fix it. They really sugarcoat the entire thing, because the worry is, if I tell you that this is really 1 out of 10, and then in which case the person will say, okay, then I don't have no future, he'll quit. So I lose whatever little is happening. At least that 1 out of 10 is happening, I'll lose that. That is a real fear that a lot of people have. How do you get over it?
No, I have always operated differently, and I think there is a better way. And the way is that, firstly, you should be open and candid. Very open and candid. But you should not be diplomatic. You should be respectful, but not diplomatic. Because if you are being diplomatic, then the message may not reach.
Give me an example of where you've done it with diplomacy. I mean, without being diplomatic, you've been very candid. Give me an example of where
No, I have, for example, there's some terminations I've done with a lot of respect. And you have to give the bad news. But bad news doesn't mean that you make it personal. It's a professional thing.
Sure.
Nothing. And the same guys who are terminated, I have helped outplace in some other company where they fit better, where the fitment or matching is better. So the point I'm trying to make is, it's better to be open and candid, frank with feedback, spontaneous with feedback. Not make it personal. Keep it professional. Keep it very respectful. Because you're not going against the person. You're saying that, okay, you're a great guy, but these are 1 or 2 things which you need to tweak. And I'll help you tweak it. I'll help you strengthen them. And if you can't overcome, still you are a great guy. I'll get you a manager. Let's say, like in the example of CFO I gave, I'll give you a CFO who's very good. He'll plug that weakness of yours, and you'll be a great guy. So I'm saying that you have to convince that person that you are not being personal. You want success of that manager. You want him or her to succeed. So if that
Yeah.
element of trust and faith is not there, then obviously he'll be upset. But if the trust and faith is there, then he or she will feel, yes, he's thinking about me.
So, Manoj, I'll add one more thing which comes to my mind when I hear you, that, somebody, it's only someone who's got a genuine interest to develop people, who can be candid and who can do it with, respect and sensitivity and all of that. So, I think that to me is the interesting element. I want to ask you that, uh, and as I told you, that I'm really obsessed to find out, what is it that you did to build scale in yourself, because perhaps when you started your career, at no point of time would you have said that at some point of time, whatever time it was, I will be managing not one or two or three or four or five or 10. You're actually managing more than 20 companies today, right? So when you look at that, what have you done at different inflection points for yourself? I'd really love to, learn about that. For me, that
So,
is really one of the big drivers which determines career success. That where do you end up? Do you end up being the manager of two-person team or two companies or 20 companies? I think there's a big difference in that.
so I think I was taught few important elements of success by my parents. So let me start
Hmm.
with that. Uh, 4H, first and foremost, honesty. Be
Okay.
honest.
Okay.
Dishonesty doesn't pay and doesn't last.
Okay.
Number two, hard work. I mean, you can't do anything but hard work. Hard work includes smart work. So it's not only
Sure.
hard work,
Sure.
physical work. It's also use of your intellectual capability. Number three, humility. Whatever you may be the top of the world. Keep yourself grounded and be very, very respectful to people, all levels of people. First name. Let them be first name with you, and you be first name with them.
Sure.
And last but not the least, hunger. Hunger to learn everything new and learn fast. And after 50, I turned 50, hunger to unlearn.
Hmm. Oh,
Because,
that's great.
because I started my career when I was 20. And obviously, at that point, I was in Dorada Sugar Works, etc. So at that point, I may have learned many good things, which were good for that time, very pertinent, very relevant, but they are obsolete now. Why should I carry it here? I should replace that with new technology, with AI, with machine learning, with new apps, new way of working, millennial way of working. So I have to replace this capacity. I have got capacity of, let's say, 100. So out of that, if 20 is obsolete, I have to remove that 20 old learning, obsolete learning, which is good experience, but not useful today, and replace that with new 20% learning of something which is futuristic, something which is technology focused. So, so that was where I started, and I think I followed these principles quite consistently through the career, and I've had many successes and many failures, and both have taught me so much.
What is a better teacher, success or failure?
Of course, failure. Failure is a fantastic teacher. It's a staircase to success, next success.
Hmm.
Because the real thing is that you fail, you stumble, you fall, and then you get up, and then you regain confidence, and then you say, "I'm going to run again." That is real success. Real success is
Incredible.
not to succeed without a failure. Real successes succeed after a failure. And many of our entrepreneurs has failed so many times, but they've succeeded finally,
Sure.
which is fantastic. I think that is real resilience, willpower, persistence, and these are the qualities which actually will sustain you in this marathon, because it is not a sprint; it is a marathon.
Sure, sure. When you look at companies when they are sort of scaling up, and you look at the organization from being a dreamer to a unicorn to a market shaper, the organizational complexity grows quite dramatically. Yeah, and so we have a question here from one of the listeners in the audience. He sort of wants to know that. When you have a direct involvement in a company, there is a certain way in which you can ensure compliance, etc. But when you are an investor, what is your method to ensure that that compliance is taken care of? So that's a question from Navanil Roy. What is it that you would do?
For all the major investors globally, including SoftBank, ethics, corporate governance, and compliances are the foundation of success.
Hmm.
So these are no negotiation, not
Right,
negotiable areas, because we are very clear, because we work in multiple countries, multiple regimes, multiple regulations, multiple policies, and policies keep on changing. And our objectives are to be 100% compliant always, not
right,
90, 100%. Because if we have to focus on business and growth and value creation, then we can't get into problems of non-compliance. We can't. It'll take away a huge amount of time and attention of the team, of the entrepreneur. So it is better that we do 100% compliance in letter and spirit,
sure,
and then
sure.
focus completely on business, focus completely on the consumer, and that will bring bigger success. So no shortcuts. Compliances may be long cut, but we love it.
Perfect. When a number of times when you look at the startups, the investment that they have, let us say, in human resources is very really minimal. They have somebody who manages to payroll and do a little bit of hiring. But where do you really, at which size of the organization do you think it's important to have a proper HR function that builds for the future? What is the size of a number of employees where you would say that if you haven't got that by now, it's too late?
So there is no scientific formula here, because we at SoftBank we only invest at a late stage when the startup has already reached to certain scale, and at that stage definitely HR requirement is very important. But let me also share with you that HR is not the people driver. All managers are people drivers. I've always believed in that every manager has to drive his own family. That somebody has a family of 5, somebody has a family of 10, somebody has a family of 20. HR is only an assistance to the manager, line manager.
Hmm.
And if line manager does a great job and HR assists very proactively, I think that's a fantastic success, and that's the golden mean. But if one of the two fails, that is where the problem arises. So I am a very firm believer of line managers being the first HR managers,
Hmm.
and HR to be a very strong business support function, business support, not just a function. HR has to appreciate business complexities, environmental problems, future business issues which are going to hit us in next 6 months, 12 months, so that they can get people ready mentally and intellectually and support the line managers fully. So that's the way. It's a very spontaneous, very integrated way.
What do you look for when you hire an HR person? I mean, not necessarily now, but in the past when you've done that. To you, what are some of the early indicators that, well, this person is going to be a good HR person? What would you look
Yeah,
for?
today, I started my career, by the way, as HR,
I know, that's why I'm asking
HR
you.
manager.
so,
But today,
so
HR
you,
manager is very different. Today, the need is very different. One, the first characteristic, of course, that he has to be social, which means people should trust him or her. If people don't have faith in this person, HR manager, then he can't operate. So that means he has to build that trust and faith in himself by being honest, by keeping promises, etc., etc. Number two, he or she has to understand business very deeply and business dynamics and environmental, emerging environment very deeply. If it doesn't, then he won't be able to really connect with the problems and stresses of people. And third issue is he or she now in this regime, in this new era, has to understand technology, especially digitization, very deeply, so that he or she catalyzes the organization with digital uh, experience, digitization of business, all processes, systems, and also including for HR, so that the speed of HR responsiveness is better, is faster, because your people may be spread over 20 towns, 20 countries. You need to still engage with them very deeply and very responsibly and without any delay. So digitization knowledge will be great for HR people. So these are three of, I'm talking about modern HR person
sure,
of today.
sure, sure. Um, do you think that the early stint that you did in HR, um, impacted the leadership style that you had over the years, because you sort of moved into a business role and you grew in that particular pace? Did that have some kind of a shadow on your style? Did it make you too
No,
soft? Did it make you sensitive? Did it make you, did you struggle with the pieces?
it did made me very, very sensitive. It did improve my observation skills.
Mhm.
It did give me better judgment on people and their capabilities.
Give me an example of observation skills. I find that fascinating.
No,
So,
because
what kind of things?
you can observe the behavior and predict how this employee will do.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
if there is an employee who always comes back with some uh, excuse or some reason which doesn't sound too reliable, once, twice, then you understand that there is some mindset which needs to improve, and hence you proactively go back to that employee and say, now can you please take care of this proactively rather than come back to me later by saying that
Right,
this
right.
has slipped. So there are many such things, but I feel that once I made that foundation in the first 7 8 years of my career, then I decided that if I'm good at this, let me not do this. I mean, I'll do it as my second nature, subconsciously anyway. Let me focus on finance. Let me focus on marketing. Let me focus on branding, technology, etc., etc. So I really completely took away my mind to other important functions which I had to learn and gain some degree of expertise. So that also helped because then I could learn fast. Because I knew that at least on the people side, I can manage myself well.
So, in some sense, it's really, the image in my mind when I hear you say that. Um, it's almost like saying that I know how to write with my right hand, if that's my dominant hand. Let me try to learn to write with my left hand now. So it's a little bit
Yeah,
of that. Is yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah. No, you're right. Because you should. I always focused on my weaknesses. Always
right.
focused on my developmental needs because
But
that's
isn't
the
that
only way to.
demoralizing? That's demoralizing that you're
No, that
focusing.
is very enriching. That is very enriching. That is very inspiring. for example, I when I joined telecom, I learned, I attended an online AT&T course of telecom, basics of telecom, and I learned it in those 90 days. I think so much. And as soon as I joined, I signed an agreement of $400 million. That was my first agreement in telecom without understanding many areas in it, and I didn't like it. So I went deeper and deeper, and within 6 months I learned so much about it, hands on. So becoming, forcing yourself to be hands on, forcing yourself to learn fast, appreciate details, talk to many people, meet many people who are concerned is very important.
So, what is your style of learning? How do you suppose you say that I'm going to learn about, for argument's sake, e-commerce? So, what is your method of how do you go about doing it if
I'll
that's a
give you two
brand new
examples.
area?
I'll give you two
Haji,
examples.
yeah.
One example is when I went to Africa, rather than
Hmm.
depend on advisors, I went to each country. There were 17 countries we had. Each country myself met the government, met the customers, dealers, distributors, employees, all key stakeholders personally, because I wanted to feel them personally and understand the difference country by country personally,
Hmm.
rather than second hand or third hand,
Right.
which took me about 6 months. Then
Hmm.
when I came to renewable energy, I learned solar and wind industry by personally taking 2 weeks off of my personal time on a leave. I went to US to learn large solar plants, large wind plants, understand how they work, what are the issues, key issues I have to take care. So the point is that you need to have hunger to learn a lot, because you can't manage if you don't understand. And if you
Hmm.
don't understand the special issues, not the general stuff, the special issues,
Give
which
me an
only,
example of a special issue. I mean, just so that I understand that.
for example, in the first example I gave of Africa, each country, Nigeria, for example, is a tough place, complex place. DRC, Congo, is a tough and
Hmm.
complex place. I understood that, met so many people, understood what complexity, how to overcome it, how to manage it. Similarly, in renewable energy, the second example, land is a very important issue. Transmission is a very important issue, which delays many projects. 80-90% of the projects are delayed either because of land or because of transmission. And if you take care of these two aspects proactively, which we did in our first project, and that's why we launched that, commissioned the first project 50 days before time, because we were
Hmm.
able to take care of these two things which normally delay all the projects. So the point I'm trying to make is, learn the special issues which could be on critical path, and hence you will do better rather than get a surprise later.
I'm curious to know that, so we are coming towards the end. We've got about 10 minutes. I would like to really understand from you something about your personal habits. What kind of, do you like reading? Do you like, traveling? Of course, I seem to understand that you really enjoy going to a place, meeting people, and doing that. So that's an obvious one. But what do you enjoy reading? Or do you read at all? I mean, I'm assuming.
I read a lot. I read a lot of business papers. I read economics. I'm originally a student of economics. I love economics. Read about business, economics, global trends, especially technology trends, uh, new businesses which are coming up across the world, fantastic new ideas, innovations of Silicon Valley, Israel, Korea, Japan. So much to read, so much to understand what's happening across the world. So I read that very deeply.
So do you read a little bit every day? I mean, how much time do you spend reading? And is it something you do on a weekend? Do you read when you travel? What's your reading
Couple of hours
pattern
every
like?
day. Couple of hours every day. A weekend, of course, will be more, because when I'm
And
more.
if you were to sort of divide your day like a pizza, slice it up, and What would those pizza slices look like? How much, what are the big chunks? I mean, a typical one.
There's a very important slice of fitness. This is 1 hour at least. Sometimes
Wow.
over the weekend, it is 1.5 hours. Because I believe a fit body leads to fit mind, a calm mind, a thinking mind. And another very important part of that pizza is good sleep, deep sleep.
How many hours do you sleep?
It depends. It could be 6 hours, 7 hours. It depends on, because I never put an alarm, because I think alarm is bad news. It wakes you up suddenly, and your mind is not calm when you get up. So you should get up yourself. And I normally get up plus minus 5-10 minutes from when I want to get up. So that's also part important part of that. Uh, and balance, of course. I either I am working or with my family, because I am a family man. I love spending time with family.
So when you were going through different choices in your career, you worked across some really interesting sectors. I mean, if I sort of really look at it, all of them played a very critical role. Yeah. If you were to go back and do a big picture view of your career, what are some of those moments and inflection points that you think about that really shaped your style? I mean, what were those? Because you worked in, I would think from sugar to telecom to, finance and the works. I mean, so tell me about that.
So everything shapes you. I mean, I like sugar shaped me. It taught me how a very tightly regulated business works.
Why tightly regulated?
It's the most regulated business. Whether you purchase sugarcane or whether you sell sugar or whether you operate the factory, how many days, so so much
Ah,
of
yep, that's
regulated
true.
business.
True.
Then I went to Calcutta and I ran a engineering company. And one there I learned a lot about people, about unions, about how to manage productivity, how to get get the best out of people in a difficult situation. Then I went to Hyderabad and managed another engineering company, and where I understood how technology works, how uh, US, Korea, Japan technology should come to India, and India should benefit from these new technologies, and how you manage a large plant, manufacturing plant, and we build new bridge, new manufacturing plant there also. So I learned project management also.
Wow.
And then of course telecom. Telecom was my I'll say most thrilling professional experience and my first love, so as to say. Um, and that really was learning and applying cycle every day, learning, applying. It was application of every management learning. For example, I learned French in school. I never thought I'll use French. And when I was in Africa, there were 8 French countries, francophone countries, and with me, and I used to use a bit of French when I used to go there, and they used to be a bit surprised that this guy knows French. So everything I learned in my management, in my law education, in my commerce education, which is fantastic, and applying your knowledge, applying your education is great. And then, of course, SoftBank. SoftBank is the most unique institution in the world, business institution, and most entrepreneurial, I'll say, and very, very tech focused, very long term focused, and with the environment, with the working environment, which is so open, so entrepreneurial, so flexible, and people are owners of what they do. And the supervision is not like many old established companies. It's very left to you, and you run. So it's a very, very enabling culture, very different from other companies. many other global companies. So I think I have learned from each of these experiences and also tried to contribute as much as I could.
There is a question, from a listener here, and the question really is that there are lots of people who are in their midlife career, and they're looking for a change, and there seems to be a lot of reluctance in startups to give an opportunity for somebody who is considered to be from a different generation, from, let's say, the founders or something. What is your view on that?
No, it's a genuine problem. I think what is being shared is a genuine problem. But I still believe age is not important. Physical age is not important. It's a mental age. It is your attitude. If your attitude is youthful, if your approach is youthful, then I don't think there'll be a problem. You will definitely be welcome in a startup. So I think one has to do a self analysis. I mean, it's not about gray hair. It's about gray thoughts. You know, so one has to rejuvenate thoughts and ideas, make them
Sure.
as youthful as possible, as millennial as possible, as tech focused as possible. And then you'll be acceptable in every environment.
Um, One of the questions I had is when you started your journey at Airtel, how large was the company? And when you left it, how large was it? Just give me an idea of the scale of that.
Airtel was a couple of million, 1.5 to 2 million when I joined customers, and when I left in 15, it was close to, I don't know, 360 or 380 million customers.
So you added about 380 million customers.
I don't know exactly. It was something around that.
Yeah, okay, all right.
That's
Fair
not
enough.
important. Important is that it is scaled up to be a multinational. Important is that it's scaled up to be a company which is sustainable. Even if you see last quarter results, it has really done so well, even last quarter, which means that the organization is hungry, it's strong, it's muscular, it has good systems, good culture, and of course, leadership is good.
During this time, did your focus shift as the thing was going, let's say, million customers versus, say, 10 million, 100 million, 200 million? Did the compass of your attention shift from function to function? So initially you start focused on product, another time you focused on finance, third time on. Was it like that, or was it a consistent method all through?
Firstly, we never expected it to be such a large company. It happened. Uh, we 1 million was big news. Uh, 5 million was a big goal. 10 million was a great goal. 25 million was very big, and then 50 million was big. Then 100 million was dream, and then luckily we went. All our team went to Beijing to for an annual conference, and we invited the China Mobile chairman to address the opening, and he gave us a bigger dream because China Mobile is number one in the world.
Sure.
So we then had, but you're right. I think we kept on enhancing our dreams. We kept on enhancing our aspirations. We kept on enhancing our focus on the market, on the customers, on service, on network, on expansion, on quality, on rural market, for example. And during that time, I must have gone to thousands and thousands of villages personally. So whichever was the new theme, the entire management team focused on that theme. For example, when rural was a theme, we focused on that. When satellite TV was launched, which was a very new product for a telecom company, we focused
Sure.
completely on Airtel TV and make it a leader
Right.
in the country. So that way, I think we were able to succeed and keep it a sustainable success.
Um, we are sort of really at the end of our time, and I must tell you, I found it really fascinating in terms of, when I think about your ability to simplify a lot of things. So, we've had a number of guests on this show, but I really am taken up by your ability to synthesize a number of things and simplify it. You make it sound really easy, but I know that it would not have ever been easy ever. You're just going by the sheer gigantic scale. My mind boggles, but it's really been a privilege to have you here. Thank you so much. And you will see from all the comments, a number of people have had a number of questions to ask. There are more, but hopefully we'll get you back another time and ask the rest of the questions that we have. Thank you so very much. Much appreciated. All the
No,
very
Abhijit,
best.
I'm grateful to you, and it's been really a pleasure talking to you because um, I think the questions you ask and the way you ask them is also very simple and enjoyable. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much again. Bye bye.
Bye.